Everyone, welcome to my World Champs course preview. I've spent the last couple of days going over the course with my athletes and picking out a few important notes for them for race day, and I thought it would be a good idea to publish some of my thoughts, and if you guys can find any sort of tips and tricks that might come in handy for your race, and it might give you a little bit more confidence and keep you one step ahead on race day. I'm all for it. So yeah, I would like to start by just saying that this video is not meant to replace any sort of recon or chats that you've had with your own coach as well. This is just an add-on to what you might have learned or what they have had to say with regards to your race plan. Your coach knows you best, and he knows or she knows your race plan best. So I would encourage you to use this as sort of like a supplementary bit of information that may add to your experience. So guys, if you haven't been, I suggest you go and check out the Ironman 70.3 World Championship page. It's filled obviously with information, and I'm sure most of you have already gone through there to have a look. But particularly the course overview is what we're going to be looking at today. So just some things to note: obviously an ocean swim, an extremely hilly bike, and a flat run course. The temperature average high is about 21 degrees, 13 degrees and 18 degrees for the water, so more than likely going to be a wetsuit swim. Over here they've got some really cool downloads. You can download the maps as well as the GPX files, which is quite nice. You can upload them to your Garmin device and you can go and ride and run the course while you're doing your own bit of recon in the days leading up to the race. So these videos that they've posted here underneath the course are quite helpful. They're quite short, and I would encourage you to go and have a look, because it does outline the general direction of each of the segments, and it might provide, further information to the race. But we're going to have a look at the swim. So like I said a little bit earlier, one of the key takeaways is that it is a sea swim. Okay, it is a beach start, guys, so obviously that means you need to run into the water. Something about the Mediterranean: it is extremely salty, and with the extra saltiness in the water, obviously that adds or increases buoyancy. Add that to a wetsuit swim, and if you have really good conditions, you might find that it's going to be quite a fast swim. The first turn can is about 300 meters away from the start, and there's quite a lot of turning involved actually in this swim course. So I think being confident going around the buoys is going to be quite key. If you're not so confident, perhaps take a wider arc as you're going around the buoy. It might just help with the congestion at the buoys as well. Again, because the water is quite salty, you don't really want to be swallowing salt water unnecessarily. It might lead to, a little bit of gut distress down the line. So maybe a slightly wider approach and then a nice arc around that buoy. As far as I'm aware, the buoys that are in between all of the turn buoys are sighting buoys, and you can swim on either side of them. So if you are a little bit concerned about that, give yourself a little bit of space. But please do make sure that you go around the turn buoys correctly. So yeah, you've got your first turn, left shoulder, then you're going right turn, right turn, right turn again, and then you're going left shoulder around the last green buoy, up into T1. Just something to note as well, obviously the direction of the swim is east to southeast. Okay, so you are going to have the sun rising obviously in the east, and depending on what time of the day that you start, you might find that there's a little bit of added glare on the surface of the sea. So a pair of tinted goggles might be well worth it. Just it might help you sight a little bit better. The amount of buoys has been increased between the turn buoys, so sighting should probably not be an issue anyway, but just for general eye comfort, a pair of tinted goggles might be something to look at. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Obviously, you've got a run up onto the sand to go into T1, so we'll chat about T1 next. So T1 is quite simple if you have a look at the graphic here. So you come out of the water and then you're going to take a left towards your T1 gear bags. Okay. Most of you, obviously, well, all of you should have done a 70.3 in order to qualify for the World Championship. So you should know how these gear bags all work. We're not going to go into too much detail. One of the little, I guess, tricks, not really a trick, but one of the things that I tell my athletes, if you've got a particularly long T1 or you've got a course that might be a little bit challenging and you need to get into up to speed quite quickly, if it is a wetsuit swim, I encourage them to put a gel in their tri-suit pocket so that once the wetsuit comes down, they can take the gel out and they can start fueling immediately before they get on the bike. It just allows you, once you're on the bike, to spend time getting aero and focusing on what you have to do rather than trying to start fueling once you're on the bike and having to worry about where your gels are. It also just gives you, most of the gels are pretty much 30 grams of carbohydrates these days, so it gives you a 30 gram of carbs injection pretty much immediately once you've out the swim, because you haven't been able to fuel for your swim, and that can obviously be anywhere between 25 and 45 minutes, I guess 50 minutes. So it is a long time going without fuel. So getting a top up there would be probably not such a bad idea. So you're going to come through T1, you're going to grab your bag. There's some chairs here to get changed. Now, depending on the type of athlete that you are, you might want to get out onto the bike fairly quickly. You might compromise and not use any socks on the bike, which is fine, but please remember that it is a sea swim and you are running up onto beach sand. Hopefully they'll have some carpet down. I imagine they would, but you might find that there is a little bit of residual sand that's been left on your feet from the run up into T1. They normally have water troughs where you can actually rinse your feet off. Do that because you want to try and avoid blisters and chafing at all costs when you get onto the bike. So if you aren't putting socks on, obviously you take your wetsuit off, put your helmet on, put your race belt on, put your wetsuit into your transition bag. If you've needed anything additional, you want to pop some sun cream on, or you have some additional nutrition that you've left inside your T1 bag, you obviously need to take that out as well. And then it looks like there's a bag drop-off area right here, and then it becomes a run through to your bike. Do yourselves a favor, and when you go through transition, when you're doing your gear check-in, just make a note of where your bike is. Pick a landmark, try and remember the row, walk through transition, familiarize yourselves just with the layout of it, and yeah, try and pick something that will catch your eye and it'll make it easy for you to spot your bike. There'll be a lot of bikes there and you will be in quite an excited state. So knowing where everything is, being relaxed and being able to get to your bike is crucial. Okay. It's actually quite a simple exit. So once you've got your bike, you head out underneath the pedestrian bridge, I'm assuming. It's underneath, and then you're going to make a left, go through the roundabout, and you are going to mount your bike shortly after this roundabout area. And then off you go. You've got about 6 kilometers of fairly flat cycling. I believe you go along the Golden Mile first before you get to the really exciting part of the race. So we'll have a look at the bike quickly. I've also loaded it up in a GPX viewer, so we'll go through that now as well. But you can see over here, it's pretty flat. Okay. I do realize that I've got a graphic that covers the last little part of the ride, but for all intents and purposes, we can just go through it, and then I can switch back to the other screen. So we've got this little ride along here, along that Golden Mile. You get to about 5.5 k's, and it kicks up pretty quickly. It's only about 400 meters, and then you start your climb. Right, you go left, and the climb starts. That is at about 7.8 kilometers into the bike, and you climb for about 4.5 k's. Okay, you'll get to the top there, you'll get a little bit of reprieve, and down you go for a little bit. This will roll slightly, and then you will prepare to start climbing from about 15 k's all the way up until about 18 k's. Now, do yourselves a favor, watch the video that's also on the link on this website. It's quite cool. It's very much a switchback course going up, which is quite exciting. You can see athletes in front of you. You're not going to get any sort of drafting advantage sitting 12 meters behind someone in this area of the course. So rather be safe than sorry. If they are enforcing the drafting rule to burn matches by going into someone's draft zone up this course, climb will be potentially catastrophic down the line. Right, you'll get to the top of the course on the first climb, and then you'll make quite a nice descent. There are a few rolling hills, but the net average obviously is all downhill. Okay, and then you'll get to about 33 k's, and what they've done here is they've had to add in this little sort of dog leg to the course just to give it a little bit, well, just to obviously get it to the 90 k's that you need to do. So yeah, from about 33 k's, you will make a right turn, and you'll go uphill for about 2.5 k's. You'll turn around, and then you'll go back downhill for the next for that 2.5 k's before rejoining that main road. So everything that I've heard about this course so far, the road surface is really, really good. Apparently you do need to just be cautious and watch for potholes in that first 5 to 6 kilometers, but then the road surface is really good, with exception for this 5 kilometers. Okay, they say the road is not super great over here, so it's something to just bear in mind. The nice thing is you are going uphill, so you'll be moving slightly slower, and you will be able to make a note of any sort of obstacles or holes in the road when you are going up, so that when you come back down, you know where all of those things are, and you can do that fairly safely. All right. Then you pretty much continue back down all the way till the turn on this course. That is around about 48 k's where you make that turn. And this is where the race is really going to start, right? So you've had a little bit of a taste of the first part of the climb, and yeah, it was tough. And if you've burned too many matches, this is where it's really going to get tough for you. You know, you're going to watch the pros do this course, and they're going to be really, really aggressive, and obviously that's what they train for. To be able to tolerate it. They also are going to be doing it in a very, really fast time. It's quite a hilly course. From my athletes that are racing, it does add a fair amount of time to what they would normally do over a 70.3 bike course. So, you know, you do have to account for the extra time that you're going to be cycling for. So the overall intensity should be reduced slightly as the distance gets or the duration gets longer, should I say. And if you've managed to hold yourself back and keep a little bit in reserve, this is where you can really apply yourself. The really nice thing about this course, from everything that I've seen on the previews, is that the uphills or the climbs are a little bit technical, so they are a little bit slower, but the downhills are fairly straightforward. Okay, they are long, they are not really too windy, and certainly from all of the recons and chats and podcasts that I've listened to, the general consensus is you should be able to go down these hills quite comfortably on your time trial bars, and if you're brave enough, you should be able to move really, really quickly. So from the turnaround here, you pretty much climb and climb and climb. There's a couple of little rollers here, a few like really short punchy efforts that you might need to get over there, but it really does get real here. Like this little climb here specifically is quite intense. We can see there's about 10% gradient. There's a little part of the course that's about 16% gradient, but I'm sure that's just a very short amount as you get up over the top of this. And then, yeah, this rolls a little bit, but net uphill. And I apologize for this graphic, but you're going to get to the top of the hill, and that's going to be 72 Ks into the course, and you're going to have about 18 Ks left on the course, and that is all pretty much going to be downhill. Something just to think about here is you should maybe consider like getting any gels out now, just before you start the descent, so you don't have to worry about trying to open up gel packets while you are descending. You can be as aero as possible going downhill, and that might be able to save you a little bit of time. Also, it is a good idea, although you should always be fueling regularly, right, on a course like this, it is nice to just fuel up as much as you can here so that you have a little bit more in your system when you start running, but you've had enough time for it to start sort of digesting, and it doesn't really slosh around in your tummy at all. So yeah, might be a good idea just to start preparing yourself as you make this climb, as you get to the final sort of crest of this climb, so that when you are going down, you can focus on really being fast and aerodynamic as you go down. The run into town, obviously very, very similar, about another 5.5 Ks of flat. You want to be spinning out your legs and preparing yourself mentally to go onto the run. So just a couple of things about the cycle course and its fuel stations. So you can see we've got some fuel aid stations there, and there. It looks to me like the fueling is going to be in areas where you are going slightly slower. Okay, so it allows you to be able to grab bottles if you need to. One of the most important things to realize on this course is that the drink bottles that they are giving out is electrolyte only. There are no carbohydrates in the precision electrolyte drinks. Okay, so if you are out of carbs, you've dropped your bottle, get a bottle of electrolytes, but also make sure you try and fuel up with gels and solids. So they've got the Morton gels and solids available at the fuel aid stations, and yeah, it's just something to be mindful of. Yeah, just a thought there. Overall, the bike course, I think it's going to be epic. I really think it's going to be one of the most challenging 70.3 World Championships that we've had, and I think it's going to make for extremely entertaining TV as well. So it's going to be really awesome to watch you guys all tackle this course on the weekend. Right, the transition to area, fairly straightforward, same sort of thing that we are normally used to. You dismount, you run down into these bike rack lanes, you rack your bike. I'm also assuming here that it is going to be first come, first serve, so you're going to rack your bike wherever you come in, and then you're going to go grab your T2 gear bag and whatever that is inside there you're going to take. Guys, I would also suggest perhaps running with your helmet on still, okay? So I see this quite often. Guys drop their bike off and their first instinct is to take their helmet off. And then they've got to fumble around with their helmet while they're trying to get their T2 bag. And keep your helmet on, grab your bag, okay, and take everything that you need out of your bag, put your helmet in, put your socks on, put your shoes on. If you haven't chosen to ride without socks, definitely a good idea to run with some socks on. So throw your socks on, throw your shoes on. And something that a lot of the pros do, and I certainly advise all of my athletes to do it as well, is if you've got like a little Ziploc bag or a little freezer, a sandwich bag, put all of your stuff that you want to carry with you on the run into that bag. So it can be anything. Some guys don't like to swim and bike with their watch on, right? So if you've got your watch in your T2 bag, put it in the Ziploc bag. If you've got some nutrition, Ziploc bag. Sunglasses, same thing. So all you need to do is grab the bag, turn your race number around, put on your socks and shoes, put your helmet in, and off you go, right? It'll save a little bit of time. Is it really necessary? Well, maybe to the guys that are going for an overall podium, it might be the difference between standing on the podium and not. So, you know, something to do. The pros all do it. One thing that I've found quite interesting over the last couple of world champs and really sort of high profile races is the professional guys are throwing their gels and things into their tops, which is quite cool. You see it. Some of the ladies stick their gels out of the top of their tri-suits, and I saw Solveig and Casper both put all of their gels all the way down, all their nutrition actually down into their tri-suit. The first time I saw it was actually Sam Laidlow that did that, and obviously it's cottoned on and everyone's doing it now because it's an easy way to store all your own personal nutrition, so that you obviously don't have to take from the race course, which is smart because, you know, if you haven't trained on a specific type of nutrition, you know, I know in the United States, for example, Mortal Hydration is the drink partner there, and now you come across to Spain and it's Precision Fuel and Hydration. You might not have had that before, so some guys and girls might like to use a soft flask filled with their own hydration, and that's great. Pop it in your top and off you go. Getting onto the run, again, have a watch of these videos. They really are quite short and they are quite filled with detail. But from what I understand, it is a 2-loop course, and it is sort of multi-terrain as well, which is quite cool. It's quite interesting. So there's a little bit of pavement, and then there is some compacted sand, which makes up a decent amount of the course per lap. I've heard varying comments about it. Anywhere between 1 and 2 kilometers per lap is going to be that sort of compacted sand. And probably the most interesting thing about the run course is that there's a suspension bridge. Now, from some of the videos that I've watched, a lot of the comments on that suspension bridge are, you get onto it and you think, whoa, where are my legs? You know, it's all wobbly, and I think the earlier you get onto it, the better, but certainly later on in the day, as the traffic starts to become a little bit more on the run course, you might find that bridge starts wobbling a little bit more. So it's something maybe to recon the day before, 2 days before, just sort of get a feel for it and how you run on that surface. And the overall run elevation is fairly low. It is, I think, 84 meters somewhere around there. Sorry, 84. Yeah, 84 meters total elevation gain. So it's a fairly flat run, but you will find that it is going to be quite punchy in certain areas. So depending on how you race and what your tactics are, it might be good to capitalize on those sort of punchy areas on the course. I don't think the compacted sand is going to make too much of a difference to the shoe choice that you make. Certainly, maybe the pros are going to be looking at that. But I think as the pace sort of slows down, the less you really need to be concerned with that. But I think overall everyone's in sort of like the same boat, and you should probably definitely race in the shoes that you have prepared for the race in. So yeah, I think that pretty much covers the entire race. If you have any other tips, tricks, suggestions, you can pop them into the comments. That was the full course preview. I hope it does help for you to feel a little bit more ready for the day, a little bit more confident, and obviously a little bit of a step ahead when you line up on race day. I hope that it's useful, and trust your training and back yourself 100% when you get up onto the course. You guys have all done the work. Race smart and enjoy it.